Now, take me back, first of all, to the night when the East Area Rapist case came and attacked your family.
Okay, I was recently new to the neighborhood and in the house we had just bought, like maybe 3 to 4 months. And I was not really following the East Area Rapist at all. I mean, I knew that helicopters are out and it was in the paper, but I didn't know the different cities really. I did because I was new to the area. On that particular night, my husband was home. We went to bed about 2 o'clock in the morning. Our bedroom door opens and all I see is a flashlight. I don't see a weapon or anything like that. It was basically, I'm just follow my instructions or I'm going to kill you. And at first you're not awake and I'm thinking, am I dreaming? Is this really happening? And then it's like real fast, you're awake and he's on top practically. So he throws some strings at me, asks me to tie up my husband, which I did. He comes over, he ties me up. Both of us are tied with our hands behind our back and our ankles are also tied. At that time, he leaves the bedroom and I can remember turning my engagement ring around. At the time, I'm still thinking, oh, it's just going to be a robbery. In my mind, I'm still not putting it together.
So did you know about the East Area Rapist case when this was all going on?
I knew about it, but I also didn't think that husbands were home at the time. I was not the very first one to have a husband at home, but I didn't make that connection. So that was another, he got even more brazen. He pushed the envelope. He was taking it to another whole level. So he left the bedroom, he went into the kitchen and got dishes, which is, people are saying the same things. So he brought the dishes, he put them on my husband's back, several plates, a bowl. At that time, he untied my ankles, told me to follow him. And
Your hands were still tied?
My hands are still tied. I'm in a little teeny nightie. And I walked down the hallway. And as I'm walking down the hallway, I'm saying, oh my God, I'm going to be raped. I knew by leaving that bedroom, it was going to get worse.
Where did he take you?
He took me to the family room. And at that time, he went into the other bathroom, got a set of towels. He took the knife, cut the towel in half, and put it over the TV. So he wanted the light of the TV, but he didn't want it too bright. And I was on the floor in front of the TV.
Okay. So he wanted to see what he was doing.
Yeah, but he didn't want it bright enough to draw attention from the outside, is what and I had a blindfold over my eyes, so I never actually saw his face. I got an idea of his size was about 5'10", and he did have the ski mask on the whole time.
What did he sound like?
He didn't really talk to me. He mumbled, but by then he went to the kitchen. He started drinking beer, and I could smell beer. And he was in the kitchen, and then he started going through drawers. He'd leave that room and go back into the bedroom. He would be going through things, and I could hear a lot of noise. And then he came back. He had a knife in his hand. He decided to rape me and had the knife to my throat and saying if I made any sound or screamed or moved, I would be killed. And he also said to me that if your husband makes a sound, I'm going to cut his ear off and bring it to you. And I'm telling you, at that time, I'm saying to him, oh my God, I just want to live. Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. I am not willing, but I'm not fighting. I'm just laying there. And I was praying. I was praying for God to take me, not experience what I was going to go through. So after the rape, I lay there for a long time. I started getting cold, but I could still hear him making noise, going through things. Then he came back and he says, I want your rings. And I couldn't get them off my hand. And I'm still hogtied. I'm still tied behind. And I said, go get some soap, go get some lotion. I'll get them off. So he brought that to me. I got off my engagement ring and my wedding band. And my engagement ring was a pair. And that's kind of unusual. Not very many people had a pair diamond. And so he took my husband's rings too. And then it was quiet. And I waited for a long time. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get up. So I got up at that time. I ran into the bedroom. My husband says, I can't feel my hands. You've got to get help. You've got, my hands are totally numb. So I went into the kitchen, and because of our front doors being a key to put in it and turn, with my hands behind me, I couldn't figure out how to do that. Our sliders had nails at the top going through, all the way through. I couldn't figure out how to get my hands. So at first, I'm taking knives trying to saw off the shackles. And then the slider that was next to the kitchen, the drape moved. And I realized he didn't shut the door all the way because I hadn't tried it. So I went over with my shoulder, I put it in the slider, and I moved it out of the way, half naked, the waist down, go down the side of the house, out the gate, ran to a neighbor's house, rang the doorbell. The husband came down, gave me a jacket right away. He told his wife, call 911, and then he took one of his handguns, went to the house, and got my husband untied.
So your husband remained tied the whole time?
The whole
while
time.
This was going on?
He was tied the whole time, so he never left that room. And then we were swarmed by the police, and I still want to recognize Carol Daly because she was so sweet to me and so kind to me. And she just said, we're going to be here for a little while, and then you're going to need to be examined. They took me into another room, and they were dusting me for fingerprints off of me. At that time, I had gotten dressed.
What was the date?
It was May 14th, 1977. I was 22 years old. And then I went down to UC Davis, and we conducted the interview, and they did the rape kit to check for the semen. And I had cuts on my ankles, I had cuts on my wrists. They had to document how tight they were. And then they brought me back home.
Was your husband with you the whole time?
He didn't go to UC Davis with me, no. And by the time I got home, there was nobody at the house. I was gone for, I think, a couple hours. And he really didn't want to talk about it. He said that the outfit I was wearing, he threw away. And I remember I didn't know how I was going to get to sleep. I know that I had gotten some sleeping pills, which I had never taken before. And it took a while. It was being in the house by myself that was very scary. And I think he took off a couple days from work and stayed home. In the meantime, my sister, who was from Ohio, had graduated from college. She didn't have a job yet. I called her up and I told her to come visit. And she thought she was just coming for a visit. Didn't tell her what was happening. After she got there, I said, I can't be in this house for a while by myself. Because my husband worked 5 nights a week. Every night he was working and coming home late. And so my sister stayed with me for several months. And then she actually stayed in California for 10 years.
With you?
No.
Be by your side, not
Well, she lived in her house for about 6 months, and she got her own apartment, and she got a job. I also had a job as a waitress, and
So you didn't move, you stayed in that home?
I stayed in the house for 5 years, yeah. One of the biggest things that I wanted is I did meet at one time with about 8 of the survivors of rape, all of the East Area Rapists, with Carol Daly. And they were all telling different stories. And some of them had panic alarms around their neck, and I said, I'm not going to live that way. If I change my life, he's won, and I'm not giving him that credit.
When did you make that decision?
The first year, within like a short time, when I watched the other women, how fearful they were, and I just said that I survived it. He has a plan for me, and I want to live the best life I can.
When was the first time you publicly shared your story and just spoke up about what had happened?
Well, I didn't talk about my story for 10 years. Friends I met I never told. Co-workers I never told. My parents didn't know for a couple years. At the time, it was, first of all, the women didn't have a lot of empathy. Second, you still felt shame. You felt shame about it. You felt like you might have wore something that brought that attention to you. So I do understand back then that there wasn't that compassion or feeling like we have today. And so after about 10 years, I started talking about it, and the talking really helped. It was helpful to share it. And I went to a therapist for a short time, and I asked her what she thought, and she said, I think he's either in prison or he's dead. And that was in 86 or 87. But after sharing, I got my voice. And when I was asked to do these, that's why I kind of wanted to bring it up, is I do want people that are raped to go to the hospital and to report it, and that they can live a wonderful life and be strong.
I want to go back to your relationship, because you said that you and your husband didn't really want to, or he didn't really want to talk about it.
No, he didn't want to talk about it.
Did that destroy your marriage? Did it affect you? How did it affect your marriage?
Well, we were married for 10 years. The reason for the divorce was not the attack. It did affect the marriage at the beginning. Not that I ever hated him or thought he was to blame for it. I didn't blame him for that. But some people that I've read stories that brought them closer together. So I think it's all individual. It's on why.
Okay. You did mention he took your ring and his ring. Is there anything else he took? I know he was known for taking trinkets and IDs, jewelry.
He took my driver's license. Yeah, he went into my purse, got my driver's license. He might have taken some other photos. And that part freaked me out, because I always thought he could be standing next to me and I don't even know it, because he did have that photo ID. So I think that was for him to relive it. So that was kind of a thing I had to go. And what you did is I watched my surroundings more. I didn't put myself out there. I wasn't shopping in the mall, coming to my car at a later time. I raised my German Shepherd to be a protection trained. I kept my dog with me. I walked with a dog. So I took those type of precautions. I didn't get a gun, but I didn't do things carelessly. I knew that, things can happen to good people.
Wow. Now tomorrow, Wednesday, will be a week since the public found out that they had arrested a suspect in the East Area Rapist case. When did you find out, and what was your reaction?
I got 2 texts Wednesday morning when I was walking my dog. I pulled him up, and one was from Carol Daly, and one was from Todd, who did the series on the Unmask. And he was like, could hardly talk, only had a couple hours of sleep, said, they caught him, he's arrested, I'm catching a flight up. Will you come to the hearing? Will you come to the announcement?
The press conference?
The press conference. It's invitation only. We'd like to interview you afterwards. And he was getting on a plane. And then I answered Carol Daly. I just called her right away. And she goes, I got the word last night. It's unbelievable. It's definitely a match. It's DNA. And then she said, it was nobody that was under our radar. We didn't mess up. She didn't want it to be we had arrested somebody and he got away. So she said she was going to be there. She gave me the address of where to meet. And I was so excited to see her. And I had goosebumps.
How long had it been since you last saw Carol Daly?
Well, it's kind of funny, because I just saw her 3 weeks ago at the Delta King, because we did a screening. And when that
Unmasking a Killer?
They did a screening at the Delta King, and what they did was it sold out in like an hour and a half, 120 seats. And they went, oh my gosh.
Just 3 weeks prior?
Yes,
to the arrest?
yes. And then afterwards, we did a discussion where they asked us all questions from the audience, and they streamed that live on Facebook. So I saw Carol there. Her and I went together. I saw Paul Holtz. I saw Paige. And the four of us were asked questions afterwards. And they asked me, do you still think he's alive? I go, I think he's still alive.
You felt it, or how did you?
I felt that he was in his late 60s, early 70s. At the time, he was very athletic to scale fences. Carol said she had no opinion. Paul Holt said, I think so too. And the reason we did it is, again, the interest was there. I also felt that when Anne Marie Schubert got the FBI and they got the $50,000 reward, that I thought a relative might turn him in. I thought somebody knew this man, and
Do you feel like someone knew who this person was all along?
I did. I thought either he had slipped up, he had talked in his night, he had come home one time late, either his family, parents, daughter, somebody, or son might have known.
What do you think made him stop, assuming he stopped?
I think he had children, is what I found out today, is one of his daughters was born in 86. He had 3 small children.
We all have so many questions. Reporters do, people who have been following the series, the case, the victims, everybody. What questions do you still have that you want answered?
Well, first of all, the first question was, how did we narrow it down? Because it literally was a needle in a haystack. And now we know it was through the DNA. And the thing I wanted to also give credit to is Bruce Harrington, that him and his brother used their own funds to get the law passed, 69, that hit the DNA. And because of that, the rape kits up here DNA hit with the murders down in Southern California. And that came out over 16, 17 years after the murders. So that was a huge finding.
In 2001, when they realized that the original Night Stalker was the
Right.
East Area Rapist.
Right.
Too.
And at that time, I did not. My sister called up and she said, oh my God, that man that raped you went on to murder. And at the time I said, oh my God, this is terrible to think, but I'm glad I was at the beginning, not the end. But I'm alive. And that was my point is to be alive. And I got to thank him. He was there that day, and I went up to him and I said, I'm Linda, I am one of the survivors. And he said, I hope you sleep good tonight. And he really did a lot of work. Somebody said to me, what would you ask this man? And I thought about it. I said, that's a really good question. How did you pick me? And in my book, it doesn't really matter, but I always felt that if he was caught, I wanted him to serve time in prison. I don't care how old he is. I still want him to be behind bars. I want the families to feel the closure. I want the detectives to feel like they did a good job. And I also feel never give up. We've got to keep these, we might find out more things from other cases because of this story.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said your attack was on May 14th. The suspect's, Joseph D'Angelo's next court date is May 14th.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Did you already receive closure, or do you feel like that day you'll get closure?
Oh no, I got closure. I got the day that they said he was in jail and that he was 100% his DNA. And when I saw Paul Holtz, and I got to give him a big hug that day when we went down there, he didn't have a voice. He had hardly slept. He was on just an adrenaline rush. And here he's retired and he was still devoting his time to this case.
You're talking about the investigator
Yes.
who decided to plug in this DNA that
Yep.
they had to this website, and then ultimately
Yeah.
that was what was
Yeah.
the big break in the case?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we're here today. You're sharing all of this with us. Why?
Because I feel like I'm part of the Me Too, and I want other women not to feel the shame, to feel that we do have empathy today. You can be strong, and I want other women to feel strong. I'm not doing this for the publicity. I'm not doing this. It's to help other women and not have that stigma.